Hey everybody, this is Dave from Growing the Home Garden. I did a much smaller garden this year, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little view of it. We've got some really nice looking zucchini plants over here, some squash, some cucumbers. Scan back over this way. I planted some marigolds from seed and they've not really flowered. They have really put on a lot of foliage though, which is interesting. One of my favorite plants is basil. I plant the basil every year over next to my tomato plants. And you can see here the basil starting to get some flower growth on it. There's a few bugs on it here. But you just pinch it back periodically, keep the tips cut back, and it gets all bushier and bushier. Toward the end of the season we'll take the basil and we'll turn it into pesto. Save it in the freezer, use it sometime during the winter. Although the problem with that is the pesto does not go very far, and our family of 7 just devours pasta with pesto all the time. But this is just Genovese basil, the typical Italian style, all grown from seed. There's no point in buying starter plants with basil. You can pretty much bet it's going to grow well given the right conditions, which is pretty much neglect. Basil's pretty awesome. The tomato plants back behind it are small. They haven't done well this year, mostly because I put in new soil and the soil did not do so great. It needed a better mix in the ground, but you can see some aromas there. And we're kind of at the weedy time of year, so please excuse a few of the weeds you see around here. One of my favorite plants is the jalapeno peppers. There you can see this plant's loaded with them. It's an easy one to grow, and the deer never touched that. Actually, I should rephrase that, but the deer did touch this one and have left it alone ever since. We've got a mother deer and a couple of fawns that like to come through the yard periodically, and they are a challenge to work with. You got to put up some sort of fencing, which I haven't done right. Haven't done properly just because of time and ability to get out here and tend things. So they have eaten all of my tomatoes, cut them in half a few times on now, and I've got a few tomatoes that I'll get this year, but you know, things happen. Sometimes you're busy and you can't tend the garden exactly like you want to. Now back over here, through the weeds, we've got more basil. Woodle Orange tomatoes over there. You can see this basil kind of has got a little bit of a mix to it. This one is a cinnamon basil, and cinnamon basil has got a really nice fragrance to it. Can't convey that through the camera though. There's more of the Genovese basil. I never have problems with hornworms on the tomatoes. The deer usually are my biggest enemy, but the hornworms stay away when I plant the basil nearby. So I always make sure to plant plenty of basil near the tomatoes. I also scatter sowed some mustard in here. So this is just a red mustard that I grew in another part of the garden. It went to seed, and so I sprinkled the seed back over here. So we'll have a few of those popping up here and there. We just got a nice rain today, so things should be looking good. And this one here, do you see this? If you don't know what that is, and you have it in your garden, get rid of it right away. It's bindweed. It is awful. It wraps around things, and it grows like 2 to 4 feet a day, it seems like. But in no time at all, this little thing can get way out of hand. In fact, I had one the other day that I opened the garage door, and it seemed like I only had the garage door open a couple hours, being outside and stuff. And it had come in and covered the sensor, messing up the garage door. So it's bindweed, and you need to avoid that. It will choke out pretty much anything that's around it that it grows on. You got another one of my favorites. It's a purple jalapeno. Love the flowers on it because they're nice and purple too. You can see one little marigold flower there through the branches. And I'll come over here back and look at the squash again. Those are ready to pick. That's a Romanesco squash. It's one of the tastiest squash plants I've ever had. Got it from Baker Creek. And but you can see what it looks like right there. Looks like the one on the bottom is a little too large. It'll start going to seed here if I leave it like that. But I've had very little issue with the squash vine borer on this plant, even though I know it got attacked, you know, probably a month ago. So, love the leaves on it. They look pretty cool. So that's a little tour of my little garden. There's not much to it this year. Usually I do a really big one. I've had as many as 32 to 36 tomato plants at a time, and 18 to 20 pepper plants, and various other things in the yard, but just haven't had the time this year. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more. We'll be doing some different sorts of activities this fall, so hopefully you can join in and enjoy our time in the garden. Thanks for watching.